Hey there, Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. Welcome to day 23 of our free 30-day Get Up and Go challenge. Today we are going to talk about emo soap, and I am going to actually set my timer. I've got my relax soap to remind me to just chill today, but I'm going to set the timer so I don't go over. If I can see this at the timer, close enough. Because sometimes when we cover the entire soap framework in one day, I talk too much. Well, soap framework, story, options, action, and progress. We are going to apply this to the emotional area and aspect of our life today. Remember, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, relationship, contribution, communication, and confidence. And today we're going to pop up to emotions. Why? Because our emotions, our feelings impact everything. We like to think we're these amazing, objective, rational human beings, and we think through everything. But the truth is, we are absolutely positively 100% driven by our feelings and our emotions, how things make us feel. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to introduce a tool that I absolutely love. I learned about it from Abraham Hicks. I don't know if you know who they are, and it doesn't matter. But if you just Google emotional guidance system, you'll get some type of list of emotions, or this is an upward and downward spiral version of it, which I really like. And this is the one I will talk off of for today because it's one I actually got printed out of my printer. Sometimes I have technical difficulties. And I'm going to go through a process of how I use this scale and this guidance system all the time to help me deal with emotions. So apply the SOAP framework, and I will apply it to each of the steps and show you how I use it to make me feel better about anything. So I'm going to quickly read through the emotions. There's an upward spiral of emotions and a downward spiral of emotions. And I find it interesting that there's a lot more negative emotions and negative words to describe emotions than there are positive. There's also 7 levels of positive emotions and 8 through 22, a lot more negative emotions. Maybe that's because our society and our world focuses on the negative so much because it drives people to action. When we're happy and content and feeling loved and appreciated, we just continue to do what we're doing, which is what we should do, right? But when we're having any kind of a negative experience or emotion, it drives us to do something to try to feel better. So on the emotional guidance system, on the actual lowest, slowest moving, slowest vibrating emotions that we have are fear, grief, depression, powerlessness, and being a victim. That's level 22. 21 is insecurity, guilt, unworthiness. 20 is jealousy. 19 is hatred and rage. 18 is revenge. 17 is anger. 16 is discouragement. 15 is blame. 14 is worry. 13 is doubt. 12 is disappointment. 11 is overwhelmment. 10 is frustration, irritation, impatience. 9 is pessimism, and 8 is boredom. Those are all downward spiral emotions. Upward spiral emotions are 7 through 1, and they are contentment 7, hopefulness 6, optimism 5, positive expectation and belief 4, enthusiasm 3, passion 2, and then joy, knowledge, empowerment, freedom, love, and appreciation 1. So the whole purpose of the system is to realize that we're always just wanting to reach for a slightly better feeling emotion. So if we're feeling fear or grief, it actually feels better to be insecure or to feel guilty or to feel unworthy. It feels better to blame, worry, to be pessimistic or bored than it does to feel fear. So what I like to do is I like to pick an emotion and then name that emotion. I like to say, okay, what am I feeling right now? And what's my story? What is my current situation? How am I feeling? And how do I want to feel? Well, let's pick an emotion. I was going to pick frustration, but I think I've done that one before. So I'm going to pick overwhelmment. And today is the day before Christmas Eve. So for a lot of us moms and grandmas, we are feeling a little frazzled and overwhelmed. I've got my 6-year-old granddaughter coming to spend the next couple of days in about an hour, maybe less than an hour now. I haven't been paying attention to the clock, but she's going to be coming, and then the family, and then we weren't going to have Christmas Eve here, but now we're having Christmas Eve here. So I hadn't planned on making meals and cooking and doing all these things, and so now all of a sudden we have to do those things. So I will admit I'm currently feeling a little bit of overwhelmment. So how do we deal with that? I describe and think about and tell myself, what is my story? The S in our SOAP framework is story. What story am I telling myself about being overwhelmed? And I am definitely telling myself a story about that. I wasn't planning on cooking a meal, now I have to cook a meal. I wasn't planning on having everybody here, so now we have to clean and get ready to have everybody here. I wasn't planning on, and whatever. So what's my current state? Overwhelmed. And what do I want it to be? I want to create an environment to have a stress-free, enjoyable, worry-free time. Morning, Irene. And so I want to define my story, and that creates this gap. So I use the rest of the SOAP framework to fill the gap. So what are my options? The O in the SOAP framework is options. Well, my options are to look for ways to use the emotional guidance system to feel better about being overwhelmed. All right, well, what's better on the scale than overwhelmment? Well, frustration, irritation, impatience. I'm not really frustrated or irritated or impatient about, I guess I'm a little irritated about all of a sudden at the last minute, everybody's coming over to our house. But that feels better than overwhelmment, because if I'm feeling that or pessimistic about that I can't get everything done, it's moving me slightly up the scale. And then I want to engage my mood and state changes to purposely move up the scale so I feel better and better, and I take actions that make me feel better. So I will start looking at what I'm thinking. What am I thinking about the situation? And if I change the way I think about the situation, then all of a sudden my feelings and my emotions change about dealing with it as well. Now, as I'm making progress, just taking actions and going up the guidance states, and I like, with respect to my feelings and emotions, thinking is my easiest to control personally, quickest, easiest way to change and move up the emotional guidance scale, right? Or emotional guidance system. So the action I'm going to take is I'm going to aim to regulate and move up the scale, but I'm not going to try to go from overwhelmment, which is a negative downward spiral emotion, to love and joy and appreciation immediately. I'm not going to try to jump a bunch of levels on the guidance system. I'm just going to reach for a slightly better feeling state or emotion. And as I do that, as I start to move up, all of a sudden my emotions just start to move up. When I hit the contentment on the positive side of the emotional guidance system, all of a sudden I start to go in the upward spiral instead of the downward spiral. So to take action, I'm just going to aim for regulation. I don't want to suppress my feelings, right? If we suppress things, what happens? We just get more of it. So I want to make sure that I am not saying, oh, I'm not overwhelmed, I'm not frustrated, I'm not irritated. I am all those things. I want to feel them, but I want to let them roll through me as quickly as possible and move up. I don't want to stay in any of those things. Now, if I were to stay feeling overwhelmed, like a little bit like I feel right now, would I actually have a good experience? Would I get to that current state? Probably not. Things would fall apart. I wouldn't get things done. I wouldn't be prepared. I wouldn't be ready for Christmas Eve, right? And that would be sad. I like to think as there's things we can do, right? We could keep, and I don't think I've ever really done this. I keep track of my moods and things, and I journal a lot, but I don't have a specific and separate mood journal. Some people, as they study the emotional guidance system and as they learn the tools and apply the tools, they have a journal that they journal their moods. I have never done that. Number one, because I move through my moods so quickly, it'd be pretty hard. I'd be writing all the time. But that is a strategy that you can use. It's an action you could take to see if you're making progress or not. Now, action is the A for our SOAP framework, and P is progress. How do I know I'm moving in the right direction with respect to my emotions? Am I getting more emotionally intelligent and better at handling my emotions and feelings, or am I getting worse at it? I think that's when we could apply the whole SOAP framework to that question and figure out what the gap is, and then make continuous improvement. I just use the emotional guidance system automatically to make that a constant and continually improving process in my life that I hope and I don't hope because I know it's happening, but my emotional intelligence is getting better and better and better. I used to spend a whole lot of my life frustrated. Like, I'd say 80% of my life, oops, too long, I was frustrated, and that was before I learned about the emotional guidance system. Now, I feel frustrated and I get out of it as soon as possible because I know that's not a state or a place that I want to spend a lot of time in. So are you making progress? I like to look at my past, my present, and my future, and that helps me to see what direction I am trending in. The point is to be continually spending more and more time in the positive emotions, right? And feeling good in our life than it is to be feeling bad or negative. So our action item today is just to pick an emotion and then apply the SOAP framework to it. What's your current situation? What is your desired situation? What are the options to get from where you are to where you want to be and fill that gap? I use the tool, the emotional guidance system. Then pick something, pick an action, pick one slightly better feeling. If I'm overwhelmed, okay, now I'm just going to feel frustrated about all the things I have to do, or irritated or impatient. Then once I'm feeling that way, I'm gonna say, okay, well, I'm bored with this. I'm cleaning, and cleaning to me is the worst activity on the planet. I'm bored with this. Then I'm gonna say, okay, I'm starting to make progress. I'm seeing things happening. I'm content. I'm okay with this. And then I'll start to get hopeful that I can get everything done and we'll all be ready and have an awesome time, etc., etc., etc. And then, am I making progress? Well, I like to say that if I'm moving up that scale and spending more of my time and energy in the upward spiral than the downward spiral, then I am, as a human being, making progress. So share in the comments below just the emotion that you started with, that you picked. Me, it was overwhelmment. And then just share the emotion that you picked. I guess I call it overwhelmed, not overwhelmment, but I picked overwhelm. Pick one, and then you don't have to just do it, but just share the emotion that you picked. You don't have to do anything else. Just pick one and share that emotion. If you'd like to share any wisdom or any information or any lessons learned about using the emotional guidance system, or if it's the first time you've used that, share that in the comments below as well. And I will be with you tomorrow, and we will run through the entire SOAP framework, hopefully in 10 minutes or less. I'll set the timer again, on another area or aspect of our life. I have not picked it yet, but I'll pick it tonight, and we'll go through it tomorrow, and we'll apply the SOAP framework and another tool. Any questions, hit me up. Otherwise, I'm going to go work on this overwhelmment. Have an amazing day. Bye.